What if you only had 10 minutes to design a building? What would it look like? Now, what if you had an hour? Or 10 hours? This idea isn't new. In architecture school, we called them charrettes. Short, intense design sprints that force you to think and act quickly. The word comes from the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, where students would design until the cart, or charrette, came by to collect their drawings. Once the cart arrived, that was it. Pencils down. That same idea still lives in every architect. The balance between speed, instinct, and the impossible chase for perfection. Today, I'm recreating that. Same general building size, same tools, 3 time limits. 10 minutes, 1 hour, and 10 hours. How much can you design before the cart comes? To keep this challenge fair, I asked ChatGPT to create 3 building prompts, all about the same size and type, and then used a random number generator to decide which one got which time limit. For all these sessions, I didn't include setup time. No site data, no entourage, no context, just pure design time. So here we go. Prompt number 3 landed in the 10-minute slot. A small residence tucked into the backyard. About 400 square feet or so, but just enough space for somebody to live simply and privately behind an existing home. There wasn't even time to sketch. I had to jump straight into Revit to start building. The goal was simple. Get a floor plan down, then quickly form the elevations, enough to understand proportion and enclosure. "10 minutes forces you to rely on instinct. No time for precision, only intent. Here, at the end, the kitchen really started to bother me. It didn't feel right. Proportions were off, flow was awkward, but time ran out before I could fix it. And that's it. Pencils down. It's not perfect, far from it, but it's enough to see the bones of an idea. That's what 10 minute gives you, direction, not resolution. Alright, the next prompt was a riverside cafe, a quiet community space along the water. The prompt asked me to build about 1,400 square feet of seating area and kitchen, little pantry area, and a serving counter, as well as an office and a restroom, but the big feature was this outdoor deck that would be looking out on the river. An hour felt generous after 10 minutes. I actually had time to sketch. A quick floor plan showing flow and seating, then a fast section with notes about light and structure, but that was about it. Once the idea was clear, I moved back into Revit. Here it's the same workflow. I'm going to start with walls, then roof, then elevation. I'm laying out the floor plan first, just so I can get a sense of the space and how everything lays out. Now I'm looking at it, adding the roof, adding some texture to the elements on the elevation, just to see how the building's going to form itself. And here, this is where I gave it some time to give the building something to hold on to. I'm designing a slat wall shading system that wraps the facade. It became the heart of the design. casting shadows that shift throughout the day, giving the building a living character. And now I'm experimenting with materials, textures, and light, trying to capture that calm riverside mood, but never quite landed on the look I wanted. And then once I finished, I noticed something. I never added a bathroom. That's kind of important for a public space like this. But that's what happens with limited time. You go deep on one idea and forget something essential. And that's part of design too, the balance between creativity and practicality. The 1 hour mark sits between intuition and control. Not enough time for perfection, but just enough to glimpse something real. Alright, the final prompt was a wellness retreat. A place up in the mountains for meditation, small gatherings, and quiet reflection. I was able to take a deeper dive this time when I was in sketch mode, and I laid out a full floor plan with a multi-purpose room, smaller breakout rooms, and I even added a few decompression pods for individual reflection. Here I've even added a roof plan and rough elevations with color and texture, just enough to imagine how the light might fall. I still started with the floor plan and making all the rooms about the right size, but I also slowed down a bit to look at building code and how things would work. I moved the walls around till it felt about right. I was able to take the time to really consider how much space is between each room, how big the hallways were, did we have enough clearance for accessibility? All things that are really important to a real building. Because I have more time now, I also wanted to really focus on the structure. I wanted it to become a part of the design. Exposed timber beams, defining rhythm and warmth. It's not just about the look, but it's also about the functionality. These are the actual beams that would hold up the building, and I wanted some truth in this architecture that would show how the building was held up, but still give it a bit of a defining feature. Now came the materials, lighting, and atmosphere. I spent a lot of time looking at the different materials, even fine-tuning the color choices of the stucco here, and looking at how the light affects the spaces during different times of the day, or the different types of materials with the textures that they have. Now, at around 6 hours, I did a virtual walkthrough, and I realized the design felt complete. Not finished in a technical sense, but resolved enough to communicate the idea. If this was a real project, the next steps would be code analysis, detailing, coordination with the engineers. All important, but yet a different kind of work. This challenge was about the design, the intent, not the documentation. This is what we'd consider the completion of the first phase of architecture, the schematic design phase, and it would start to move into the design development and then construction documentation phase. I could have kept going with this design for a full 10 hours, refining every little joint and every texture. But part of being an architect is knowing when to stop. Pencils down doesn't mean it's perfect. It means it's ready to stand on its own and ready to move on to the next phase. So there you have it. 3 buildings, 3 time limits. 10 minutes, 1 hour, 10 hours. Each built with the same foundation, but shaped entirely by time. The 10-minute design was all instinct. The 1-hour cafe found some character, even if I forgot a few essentials. The 10-hour retreat found stillness, the point where instinct meets patience. I thought I was testing how much I could design within each time window, but I realized time doesn't measure quality, it measures clarity. The real challenge isn't finishing a design, it's knowing when it's enough. In school, when the cart came by, that was it, pencils down. And maybe that's still true today. The design is never really finished. You just have to know when to stop. When I was a young architect, many years ago, there was a joke. Architects rarely design their own houses because they never stop designing them and they never get built. I get that now. Every design carries a trace of who we were in that moment, what we noticed, what we valued, and what we missed. That's what time reveals. Not perfection, just progress. Thanks for coming along with me on this little experiment, this journey through time, process, and patience. If you like this kind of video and want to see more, consider subscribing or joining me on Patreon to support future projects. But for now, it's time for pencils down. Stay curious and design with intent.